I see lots of friends here, so that's exciting. So my name is Kelly Neidert, and I am the executive director of a nonprofit organization called Protect Texas Kids. So I started Protect Texas Kids because I had been a student at the University of North Texas. I just graduated there in May of 2022. And while I was there, I led my Young Conservatives of Texas student organization. So I noticed that the students on campus were just so far left. You could not reason with them, you could not have a discussion with them. They would literally assault you, they would scream at you, they would go out of their way to make your life miserable. And so when I started YCT there, I actually started it just as a way to make like-minded friends because I transferred in from a different university and I didn't know anyone. And as I was starting it, even just having social events and being very low-key, not doing activism events, not really being vocal on campus, literally just minding my own business, going to get dinner with friends, whatever, I received so much backlash and hate, so I figured, if they're gonna hate me, I might as well give them an actual reason to. Yes. And so my organization got involved with more campus activism. We got involved with local politics, and we really became an actual political organization. And so we started off in fall of 2019, and then of course spring of 2020 is when COVID hit. During COVID, we actually had a group of liberal witches start putting hexes on us. Students at the university just got so mad at us, I don't know for what reason, and they started, quote, hexing us. It was the weirdest thing ever, and that made the national news. And from then on out, that campus was so crazy and ridiculous that every semester after that, we continued to make the national news for something. That's not normal. And so by the time my senior year came around, that October of 2021, we had our first real encounter with Antifa. So a lot of the students on campus were members of Antifa. And we would see them out. Sometimes they'd wear their flags around campus, and it was really weird, but they never really did anything. They never really bothered anyone. But in October, we had a pro-life prayer vigil that about 250 of them just stormed, and they threw condoms at us. They brought musical instruments to try to drown us out in our prayers and everything. And we eventually had to be escorted away from the area by campus PD. And so from there, that spring was the craziest of all. Antifa continued to come back to campus, I think 3 times that semester. I had to be escorted out of 3 different events. The craziest one was with Jeff Younger. We were hosting him as a speaker, and it got so bad there were probably about 400 protesters at that event, and some of them, the vast majority of them were students, at least 70% I'd say, but a lot of them were just off-campus adults that had nothing better to do. Some even flew in from Denver for that. I don't know, I know they flew in from other places, but that's the one that we've actually confirmed. Literally just because a conservative student organization was hosting an event with a conservative speaker on a college campus. That's, that required 400 protesters to come out and scream at us. And so at that one, I was being evacuated by campus PD, and my classmates who were outside screaming at me as I was leaving the building cut me off from my police escort, and I ended up having to be hidden in a nearby building, and police put me in a janitor's closet on the 3rd floor of the building because it was the only room that would lock from the inside. And so as I'm in there with my police officer, I was definitely a little shaken up at that point, and I was a little scared, but I was still videoing everything because I thought it was gonna go viral on Twitter, and I had a sense of humor about it. But then the officer I was with 2, as we got in the closet, one left the room to go check the building and make sure nobody else was in there. So as I'm in the room with just my one officer, the other officer calls him on his radio and says that about 40 protesters have breached the building. And so at that point, we had to turn the lights off, and I turned my phone off, and I genuinely thought that I was going to die. I had one officer with me, and there were 40 of these people that literally breached the building looking for me. And so we heard them, my classmates, they ran up the stairs and they actually did shake the handle of the room I was in. But like I said, it locked from the inside. I was very thankful for that. And so they didn't know that I was in there. They were just trying to get in any room they could to see if they could find me. And so we heard them move on, and then my police officer called for backup, and I was able to get out of there safely. Even after that event, there was another one where I had to be escorted off campus, again by Campus PD, and that one was so crazy because it wasn't as bad as the one with Jeff Younger, but the Antifa group that's off-campus they're not students, they're just off-campus people that really have no business being on a college campus. They're just coming in to disrupt. They were all in Dallas because their Roe v. Wade draft had just leaked, that it was going to be overturned. So they were all protesting in Dallas. So everybody at this event that I had to be evacuated from, the final event, was literally a college student. There were no outsiders there. And they ended up just disrupting, screaming at us. I got kind of separated from my group towards the end, and about 50 of them just mobbed me, and they were pouring water on me, they were trying to hit me. There's videos that my friends got where they're literally saying, like, kill her, kill Kelly. I mean, again, I thought I was gonna die. Campus PD reluctantly got me out of that one. They said they weren't really there to help me, but when they started getting hit, they decided that they would help me. So yeah, it was frustrating. One of my classmates also found where I lived and spray painted my apartment door, and I also had to graduate with armed security in May because it was that bad. So all of this to say, from those experiences I had, I just really realized that my classmates did not step foot on a college campus and become that far left overnight. I think that it happens starting in pre-K or kindergarten. I think that those leftist ideas are slowly introduced to them, and then by the time they get to college, they're very accepting of those ideas. When they have the crazy, far left professors, they don't question it. They just accept it because they've already been slowly exposed to it over time. And so I wanted to start a nonprofit organization that fights against this, partially because I couldn't get a regular job with all the hit pieces that are out there on me. But I wanted to start a nonprofit because I also wasn't going to be happy with just a regular office job. And we do 3 things. So the biggest thing is looking at all of this stuff in K through 12 education. We want to get rid of it. We want to get rid of the sexually explicit library books. We want to get rid of CRT. That's still being taught. It's also being used for teacher training and staff training, and that needs to go. There's also just all these anti-American ideas. I know there's in Denton ISD, I was at a board meeting a couple months ago, and a substitute teacher gave public comment, and he was saying that he had stepped in the room next to him for something, and that teacher told his students not to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because this isn't their country. It's not his country, it's not their country. That's in Denton ISD, that's right here in DFW. And that's just one example. And so all of these horrible far left ideas are being taught to our kids are being indoctrinated with it, and then you get young adults like the people that I went to college with who are just so far gone they can't be reasoned with. And so we want to fix all of that, and there's so much going on with the education stuff. But then we're also looking at the child transitioning because, it's not even transitioning. I think that that's kind of language of the left, but we all just use it. But it's like gender mutilation, it's abuse, and we want to end that. And so we've been protesting the clinic in Dallas. It used to be called Genesis. They've removed the name from it, but it's still doing all of the same stuff. They're giving out cross-sex hormones to children and puberty blockers to children, and then supposedly they refer them out for surgery. And that's, again, going on right here in Dallas. And then the third thing we do is we go protest these supposed kid-friendly drag shows, because those are disgusting, and that's just another way that the left is kind of grooming our kids and indoctrinating them to tell them this stuff is okay, and it's not. And so we started protesting, I believe, back in June, and since then there's been at least one show every month going on in DFW that we've gone and protested. We actually have one this Saturday in Dallas. I mean, you would think that these venues would know by now that if they're hosting one of these shows for kids, we're gonna come protest, but they don't seem to care. And so I'm sure you guys have seen some of the shocking footage from inside of these shows, but it is anywhere near, like a kid should not be anywhere near these shows. It's disgusting. It's grown men, you know, provocatively dancing with like bikinis on. It's disgusting. And so for the left to say that children should be there, that's so wrong. And so those are kind of the three things that we're fighting against. And like I said, to do that, we're going to school board meetings and trying to get other people at these school board meetings. And then we're also doing training sessions. And then the third thing we're doing is the protests. And I will say on that, across the board, we need attendance at these things, especially, you know, the trainings are for people that don't know how to, you know, give public comment at a school board meeting or don't know how to do an open records request. Stuff like that is what we teach. But then these school board meetings and protests, that's where people are really needed, because across the board, every school board meeting I've been in DFW, the conservatives have been outnumbered, and that's not okay. Protests, it's the same. The left is really beating us at those. They can put out a call to action 48 hours in advance and get 100 people there, whereas we promote it for 3 or 4 weeks in advance, and sometimes we might only get 12 people there. And I understand, you know, we have jobs and they don't, and so that makes it easier for them to get out and protest, but a lot of our protests are on weekends, Saturdays, when, you know, most of us aren't working. And so it is something that a lot of people could get out and do. I really think that those protests put pressure on these venues, and eventually, you know, if we want to go protest a school district or these transition clinics, it's the same idea, you know, having people out there peacefully protesting, but with megaphones and signs, making it clear that there are those of us who are not okay with what's going on. That really sends a strong message. Because at the end of the day, just, you know, being upset about an issue and sharing a post on Facebook doesn't really do anything. And so we really need direct action. We really need people out there taking a stand against it. So that's kind of what my organization is doing. Our website is protecttxkids.org. I do have some cards I can pass out that have that on there. We also have on our website a weekly newsletter sign up that has all of our events, local school district news, and anything else that seems important for you guys to know. That goes out every Wednesday. So if you're interested, like I said, that's protecttxkids.org. So yeah, like I said, I do have some cards if y'all can't remember that. But I really appreciate y'all's time, and I hope to see y'all at a future event. Thank you.